Welcome to the Thing About the Salem Witch Trials. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
This is Sarah Jack. Today, we look at one of the most influential of the so-called afflicted girls.
At 19 years old, Mercy Lewis was a grown woman. Yet at the time, she's grouped in with the maids because her work is a maidservant. She's the age that they called maids at the time, and she's unmarried.
Mercy was a prolific accuser. She submitted depositions and testimony against 16 different people, and she was named as a victim of witchcraft in indictments against 13 people. In addition, she appeared in court many, many times, providing real-time evidence of affliction.
Some historians have questioned whether Mercy Lewis was not the ringleader of the afflicted girls, thinking that she was the one who influenced them the most. She lived in the home of her employer, who was Thomas Putnam. That's the same household where the two Ann Putnams lived.
She had been through a great deal of trauma in the New England War against the Wabanaki Confederacy and the French.
Much of Mercy's extended family was killed in a raid on Falmouth, Maine in 1676, when Mercy was a toddler. And her parents were likely killed in an attack in September 1689 that Mercy may have witnessed. They do not appear in any known records after that point.
After Falmouth was captured in May of 1690, Mercy Lewis and her sister, Priscilla, relocated to Essex County, Massachusetts.
In 1691, Priscilla married Henry Kenny Jr., a near neighbor of Thomas Putnam in Salem Village.
By the beginning of 1692, Mercy was working for Thomas Putnam and his family. She carried with her the trauma of seeing family members killed and may have shared bloody tales with the two Ann Putnams.
Mercy was first mentioned as afflicted in the March 19th warrant for Martha Corey and was present at Martha's examination in the Salem Village Meeting House on March 21st.
By the 1st of April, Mercy was having profound visions, which former Salem Village minister Deodat Lawson enjoyed recording in the book he wrote about his visit to Salem Village, A Brief and True Narrative.
Yeah, during a fit that day, the 1st of April, she reportedly said, "They did eat red bread like man's flesh, and would have had her eat some, but she would not, but turned away her head and spit at them and said, 'I will not eat, I will not drink, it is blood,' etc." She said, "That is not the bread of life, that is not the water of life. Christ gives the bread of life. I will have none of it."
Later the same day, Mercy had another fit and said she saw a white man and was with him in a glorious place which had no candles nor sun, yet was full of light and brightness.
She said that a great multitude in white glittering robes sang Revelation 5:9, Psalm 110, and Psalm 149. We're going to read these verses that she talks about, these passages that she talks about them singing, so we can recreate the vision that she had and go through all the details to try and understand what she's talking about when she says, "I saw a white man and a multitude glittering in robes." So all these glittery, shiny people she was seeing. Let's find out what they were saying.
She quoted Revelation 5:9. In the King James Version, that says, "And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book, and to open the seals thereof. For thou wast slain, and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation."
Psalm 110 says, "The Lord said unto my Lord, Sit thou at my right hand, until I make thine enemies thy footstool."
The Lord shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies.
Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauties of holiness from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth.
The Lord hath sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek.
The Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of his wrath.
He shall judge among the heathen. He shall fill the places with dead bodies. He shall wound the heads over many countries.
He shall drink of the brook in the way, therefore shall he lift up the head. And this Psalm 110, by the way, was the focus of a recent sermon series by Samuel Parris that he had gone through over some months at the end of 1691 and the beginning of 1692. So this is fresh in Mercy's mind.
The multitude was also singing Psalm 149. Praise ye the Lord. Sing unto the Lord a new song, and his praise in the congregation of saints.
Let Israel rejoice in him that made him. Let the children of Zion be joyful in their king.
Let them praise his name in the dance. Let them sing praises unto him with the timbrel and harp.
For the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation.
Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds.
Let the high praises of God be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand,
to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people,
to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron,
to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye the Lord.
After all this singing of these psalms and the verse from Revelation was over, Mercy said to herself, "How long shall I stay here? Let me be along with you."
She was loath to leave this place and grieved that she would tarry no longer. Minister Deodat reported this.
Yeah, and he concluded his account of this April 1st event by writing, "This white man hath appeared several times to some of them," and the white man did appear to some of the other afflicted people as well, "and given them notice how long it should be before they had another fit, which was sometimes a day or a day and a half or more or less. It hath fallen out accordingly." Surprise, surprise.
On April 4th, it's recorded that Mercy accused Sarah Osborne and the very small child Dorothy Good of bringing her the devil's book, and Mercy said that Dorothy's specter afflicted her by biting, pinching, and choking.
On April 11th, Mercy appeared in court against Elizabeth Proctor and Sarah Cloyce. She later testified that Elizabeth Proctor's shape had visited her in early April and had been tormenting her since, including during her April 11th examination.
Mercy appeared in court against Giles Corey on April 19th and testified against Abigail Hobbs the same day. She claimed that on April 17th, the apparition of Abigail Hobbs pinched her and almost choked her while urging her to sign the devil's book. The specter continued to hurt Mercy until Abigail's initial hearing, when Abigail confessed to witchcraft, at which point she stopped hurting Mercy.
On April 22nd, 1692, Mercy did a rare thing in the Salem witch trials. She actually told the magistrates that they had nabbed the wrong man, Nehemiah Abbott Jr., who was then released on his own recognizance, free to go.
On May 9th, Mercy testified against former Salem village minister George Burroughs, who had been her family's pastor in Maine, as well as Mercy's one-time employer and landlord. So this was the right guy, evidently.
She knew this guy very well and recognized him in person because she had lived with him and worked for him. So she claimed that his apparition had come to her on the evening of May 7th and grievously tortured her. There's that grievous again, encouraging her to sign his book.
He then brought her a new book and urged her to write in it instead, for this book had been in his study when Mercy had lived with him.
But she told the apparition that she did not believe him, for she had been often in his study, but she never saw this book there.
But his specter said he had several books in his study, which Mercy never saw.
He also told Mercy that he could raise the devil and had bewitched Mr. Shepherd's daughter after he'd been imprisoned in Salem on May 4th. According to this apparition, the devil was George's servant and he could send him to harm people.
Mercy testified that the minister tortured her most dreadfully and threatened to kill her. He said, "I should not witness against him."
He also told her that he had made Abigail Hobbs a witch. Abigail was another Essex County war refugee from Falmouth, Maine, whose family had settled in Topsfield, just across the town line from Salem Village. The specter claimed to have recruited several unnamed witches as well.
Then he did most dreadfully torture Mercy again. It felt as though he would have wrecked Mercy all to pieces.
He again urged Mercy to write in his book, This time he threatened to kill her, but she said she hoped her life was not in his hands and that she would not write though he did kill her.
The next day, Mercy reported that Burroughs came in and said she would not see his 2 deceased wives if he could help it because she should not witness against him.
He was concerned here because there were rumors going around that he had murdered his first 2 wives, and so he didn't want their ghosts showing up in winding sheets and pointing the finger at him for their murders. Mercy saved the most dramatic part of this story for the last, testifying that on May 9th, 1692, Mr. Burroughs carried me up to an exceeding high mountain and showed me all the kingdoms of the earth and told me that he would give them all to me if I would write in his book. And if I would not, he would throw me down and break my neck.
She continued, I told him they were none of his to give, and I would not write if he threw me down on 100 pitchforks.
On the 9th, Mercy said Burroughs also tormented her during his examination.
But Burroughs was not the only witch to hurt Mercy Lewis this day.
According to her May 10th deposition against George Jacobs Sr., his shape was also active on the 9th. Mercy testified that most dreadfully George Jacobs fell upon me and did torture me on the 9th of May at evening after I came home from the examination of his maid, threatening to kill me that night if I would not write in his book, because I did witness against his maid, his maid is Sarah Churchill, and persuaded her to confess, but because I would not yield to his hellish temptations, he did torture me most cruelly by beating me with the 2 sticks which he had in his hands, and almost ready to pull all my bones out of joint till my strength and heart was ready to fail, but being upheld by an almighty hand and encouraged by them that stood by, I endured his tortures that night.
The specter of George Jacobs Sr. returned the next day. As Mercy said, quote, he again set upon me and afflicted me most grievously a great many times in the day, still urging me to write in his book. But at evening he again tortured me most grievously by pinching me and beating me black and blue and threatening to kill me if I would not write in his book. But I told him I would not write in his book, though he did kill me and tear me all to pieces.
Right on, Mercy. Mercy continued, then he proffered me to give me gold and many fine things if I would write in his book. But I told him I would not write in his book if he gave me all the world, like George Burroughs had just offered the previous day, and she declined that. Then again, he did torture me most grievously, but at last went away from me.
The next day, May 11th, when George Jacobs Sr. was questioned by the magistrates at his initial examination, the specter really got her again.
Mercy said, I saw that it was that very man that told me his name was George Jacobs, and then he did also most dreadfully torment me, almost ready to kill me, and I verily believe in my heart that George Jacobs is a most dreadful wizard, and that he hath very often afflicted and tormented me by his acts of witchcraft.
On May 20th, 1692, Mercy Lewis was so sick that the people attending her were certain she would die.
Jonathan Putnam, James Darling, who's Mercy's uncle by marriage, Benjamin Hutchinson, who's my uncle by blood, and Samuel Braybrook were present when Mercy was sick.
They said Mercy was unable to speak, so Elizabeth Hubbard was brought to discover what she could see did afflict said Mercy.
When Elizabeth arrived, what happened was that she and Mercy both started having fits alternately. The two both complained much of Mary Esty, who's my and Sarah's grandmother, and our friend Mary's grandmother as well. So the 3 of us know each other, and we're cousins. Anyways, the 2 both complained much of Mary Esty, who brought the book to said Mercy several times, as the men heard her say in her trances, and vexed and tortured them both by choking and seemingly breathless fits and other fits, threatening said Mercy with a winding sheet and afterwards with a coffin if said Mercy would not sign to her book, with abundance more of vexations they both received from her.
John Putnam Jr. and George Herrick, the Marshal of Essex County, soon to be retitled Under Sheriff, testified that they were at John Putnam Jr.'s house and both saw Mercy Lewis in a very dreadful and solemn condition, so that, to our apprehension, she could not continue long in this world without a mitigation of those torments we saw her in, which caused us to expedite a hasty dispatch to apprehend Mary Esty, in hopes, if possible, it might save her life. And returning the same night to said John Putnam's house about midnight, we found the said Mercy Lewis in a dreadful fit, but her reason was then returned again. She said, "What have you brought me? The winding sheet, goodwife Esty? Well, I'd rather go into the winding sheet than set my hand to the book." But after that, her fits were weaker and weaker, but still complaining she was very sick in her stomach. About break of day, she fell asleep, but still continues extreme sick, and was taken with a dread fit just as we left her, so that we perceived life in her, and that was all.
So Mercy got very sick. The marshal rode to John Putnam Jr.'s house in Salem Village. By the way, the marshal lives in Salem town, so there's several miles between these homes. Then he rode from that house up to Topsfield to arrest Mary Esty, and apparently got back to the Putnam place before midnight. And this all happened in the dark of night.
And after all of that, Mercy was still sick.
Mary had been released from jail, but Mercy Lewis complained about her so intensely that they thought the only cure for Mercy Lewis was put Mary Esty in jail. And it's just frustrating to see that Mary Esty goes to jail again, and Mercy still isn't better, and she keeps testifying against people all throughout the summer and into the fall.
But at this point, no one's hanged yet.
Nobody's hanged yet. We're still May 20th. We haven't started the court of Oyer and Terminer yet, so that's just a couple weeks, well, less than 2 weeks away. The court of Oyer and Terminer and the first trials on June 2nd.
So as if this wasn't prominent enough, she continues to play a more prominent role in the accusations.
Yeah, she gets prominenter. So what were these visions that Mercy had? Were they vivid dreams and nightmares, or could they have been make-believe? Could she have been faking her illness and these visions that she was supposedly seeing? We're far from the first to ask these questions. People asked about him right then.
Yeah, people ask and wonder and experience. I mean, people experience vivid dreams and nightmares like what she describes. And people make this stuff up too. Her previous employers in Beverly testified that she was a pathological liar.
Yeah, and a document dated to June 29th, 1692 by the editors of Records of the Salem Witch Hunt, which I highly recommend you pick up. It's got new transcripts of all of the documents that exist today. There's 998 of them or something. But anyways, in this document, William Bradford, Rachel Bradford, and William Raymond Jr. testified against Mercy Lewis. Though this document is badly damaged, it seems to be saying Mercy Lewis frequently lied to them and stubbornly clung to falsehoods.
By the way, if you'd like to help support the production of our podcast, buy your copy of Records of the Salem Witch Hunt from our nonprofit bookshop at bookshop.org/shop/endwitchhunts.
We may never know what Mercy really saw and experienced, but we know that the visions were not reality, that Mercy did not go to the top of a high mountain and see all the kingdoms of the world. There's no mountain that you can go to and see all the kingdoms of the world. So the visions, they're dreamed, they're hallucinated, or they're just fiction.
We are going to have so much more in Mercy soon. And you should follow the day-to-day events of the Salem Witch Trials on our podcast, Salem Witch Trials Daily.